Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babble podcast. I almost said small screen Star Wars because I've been saying that so much lately.
Go
But no,
used to
this is
it.
a regular episode of the podcast. I'm joined by Jeremy Kozier.
Hello.
I am Julian Mush, and we're going to be covering the latest in film and television news. But really, this is just a deep dive on how Tom Cruise requested to see The Flash, and we're just going to talk about that the whole episode. It's the movie we need right now. It's the movie of today. We'll be talking about a variety of things, some DC stuff, some Star Wars stuff, and then we'll dive into a little bit of a deeper dive on the all of season one of The Last of Us in this episode. And if you are new to the show, welcome. And if you are looking for, hey, how can I keep track of what's all going on? Best place, Twitter, at Tower Babblecast on Twitter, BABBLE. Head over to facebook.com/Tower Babblecast, same thing. And I've actually, big news, Jeremy, changed the name, or changed our handle on YouTube to be also Tower Babblecast. So you can go to youtube.com/Tower Babblecast, subscribe to us there, and you can watch us live every week.
What was it before?
Something stupid. It was like Tower of Babble Cast or Tower of Babble Pocket. There was an of in there because I thought like, oh, well, the show title has the of in it, so I should probably include the of, but nothing else had the of. So all of a sudden it became like this one outlier that I could never remember the name of. So I fixed it. Now everything has the same name. In fact, if you go to patreon.com/Tower Babblecast, you can help support the show for as little as $2.50. Get access to our Discord. We are recording live in our Discord recording studio, and if you are a Discord member, you can join that channel and listen live when we record. Get the pre and post show experience and chat with us. And on the rare occasion, you might pulled into an audio. You might get pulled into the show on a rare occasion if you're really really good. But we're gonna test that out. That is again just for Discord people. $2.50 a month gets you into the Discord. $5 gets you into the film club. We just did our last film club for the month of February, and it's late. Obviously, we recorded it in March, and we just dropped it the other day. It was Jackie Brown, which turned out to be a really really good movie, and we have a little bit of news about Tarantino's next film, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But we'll also be doing, is it The Enemy or just Enemy? Jared, do you remember?
I don't. Could be enemies.
It could be Enemies. It's either The Enemy, or Enemies. The film from Denis Villeneuve, one of his earlier films. And is it Ryan Gosling starring? Or Jake Gyllenhaal?
Jake Gyllenhaal, maybe Ryan Gosling.
They're literally the same human.
They are in a movie together as well, where they're like astronauts or something, I believe.
That's impossible. They're literally the same human. They can't be in the same place at the same time.
Maybe that's part of the story.
That's good. Very well be part of the story. Either way, that's coming up this month, and it's pretty exciting. And for those who are joining for the $2.50 level, you'll be able to get access to that for this month and next month as well. Okay, let's get into this. I will say that, obviously we haven't done a regular episode in a while, and I think the reason for that should be also obvious, which is that we've been covering Star Wars on a weekly basis now for what feels like my entire lifetime. but no, it's
all Star Wars all the time.
Yeah, no, it's called Small Screen Star Wars, and we're right now especially has been challenging because Rachel, our co-host, is pregnant and she's about to pop at any moment. So there's a lot of stress around that. But The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch are airing on the same days.
Did you see the Mandalorian and the Bad Batch?
I don't think that's what I said. Okay. But if I did, I made a mistake. But the point is, today is Wednesday, which is Star Wars Day here in this household, and which means I haven't.
May the 4th.
Well, of course, that's also Star Wars Day.
Oh, okay.
But when shows are airing on Disney Plus, it's on Wednesdays that they drop. I guess, yeah, Tuesday midnight if you're on the West Coast. But I have been with Rachel covering both of those shows in one episode. Last week's episode was 2.5 hours long, just to be clear. Okay, that's the kind of work that we're putting in here. Jeremy, meanwhile, is just chillaxing out on a beach,
Right.
watching The Mandalorian at his own pace. Is that correct?
Not even watching it.
Not even watching The Mandalorian.
Sorry.
Well, that probably contributes to the
I
reason they
might
have.
I
Go
might
ahead.
jump in. I saw like who's this new cool Jedi,
Oh,
right?
I don't
Great
know. Hard to
lightsaber. So
say.
it's like maybe
Ooh.
that might get me in on the action, you know?
Well, hey, listen. Here's the thing. The Mandalorian season 3 is having it's performing its best. It's got like I don't know. It came in below the Bad Batch and Mandalorian season 2 in terms
Darn.
of viewership numbers, but also who fucking knows because Disney Plus, all these streamers don't reveal any real numbers, so we just have to extrapolate. I mean, it is the third season of a show. Typically, that people can start falling off around that time. I mean, that's what Netflix believes, which is why they cancel shows after 3 seasons. But no, Star Wars isn't going anywhere, and the point is we're covering it very thoroughly. If you like those shows, and by the way, if you're not watching The Bad Batch, highly recommend it. Very good. Yeah, a nice double feature on Wednesday nights is a little bit of Bad Batch mixed with some Mandalorian. So yeah, that's what's been keeping us busy. We'll be back onto a regular, standard episode schedule once the Star Wars stuff cools down, and that's probably actually going to be, Jeremy. I don't know if you heard this, but Disney is considering slowing the pace on its Marvel and Disney content. Marvel and Star Wars content. Well, probably like standard Disney stuff as well, because they feel like they oversaturated the market. Do you feel like that's a fair assessment on their part?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, and the things that they're making now are getting
Worse.
just well, they're getting critiqued and just demolished
You think are you talking about
recently.
Ant-Man
Yeah.
most recently?
Well, even Thor and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just all getting just more negative. But
Well, the
like,
CG has been getting
right.
has been worse and getting criticized more. They just
Yeah.
fired their head of visual effects at Marvel Studios like the other day. So yeah, I mean, I think it's actually a right call to slow things down and be like, "Yo, whoa, we don't need to release 4
Bob Iger just
Marvel
opened the
shows."
door. Was like, whoa, 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 guys. Want to save
Slow
some money?
down.
Let's just slow it down here.
I like the idea that everyone's working so hard that it's like, oh, they're like working as fast and hard as they possibly can. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Relax. This is all going to make more money if we just slow down, right? So I think that approach will be a nice break for me personally from a Star Wars perspective because, we had Andor, we had the Book of Boba Fett, we've had the Bad Batch, we've had, the Tales of the Jedi stuff. It's just been like a lot. Of course, no movies, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, yeah, there's a lot happening. I think 4 Marvel movies a year also feels a bit much, right? So they're going to cut back on some of that. And I think, to be honest, there seems to be a large percentage of Twitter anyway, which is where I get all my information from, is saying, hey, you know what? That's not so bad. It's not such a bad idea. We all could use a little bit of a break from the constant deluge of superhero stories and Star Wars. But again,
Deluge, just like another word for delusion.
I don't think so. But we could try. No, I think deluge is like it's like an
no, I know
overwhelming
it isn't.
thing.
It's just like that's how I picture it, though. It's a delusion of
that we're all living a joint delusion that
yeah,
that the only movies that matter are superhero movies.
yeah,
And that couldn't be further from the truth.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Anyway, that's a lot to say that we're going to get back on a regular schedule, I think, soon. And the powers that be are going to make it easier on us, which, mixed bag depending on how you feel about it. I have watched so much TV and movies over the last couple of years, Jeremy. It is unreal. Like,
It's just the thing you do.
It just, every night is a new show. Like,
Every night you're just escaping.
Well, yeah, the real world sucks. So, you gotta. Yeah, I'll talk about some of the stuff I've been watching. It mostly just been rewatching Ted Lasso, and I gotta be honest, it really lifts the spirits. Like,
Believe.
believe in. Thank you, Jeremy. Wait, have you seen Ted Lasso?
No.
No, absolutely fucking not. But I know. But you know the slogan. Yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. That they were like the cast was at the White House the other day, doing like a whole thing about when
Yeah,
they're like
like pretty
dressed as the
awkward, but
characters. Yeah, it did look awkward.
it was all
It
for
did.
good stuff. So
Yeah, yeah. It's all for mental health awareness, which is kind of
right.
what the whole show is about. So I guess that's fair. So anyway, let's get into the news. We're going to cover a bit of news here, and then we're going to get into The Last of Us. Let's start with what we always seem to start with when it's you and I, Jeremy, together, which is DC news. News out of Warner Brothers DC Studios, right? They have their own name, which is
Yeah, they got
maybe like
logos, they got shirts and sweatshirts James
that's
Gunn's
right, that's
wearing in
right.
his house,
Do we feel like
and his
they could
coffee.
have? Do you think DC Studios is too on the nose? Like Marvel Studios, kind of like okay, it makes sense. But then if you do DC Studios, it just seems like it's too much the same. Could they have done something different, or is it just like that's just what it had to be?
Yeah, that's what it had to be, especially
Okay,
with Gunn coming from
right,
the other.
right, right. You know, work with what you know. They say,
And then
right?
being cohesive, yeah. It just
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, you know, Shazam: Fury of the Gods, Shazam 2, we'll call it for the sake of conversation, just came out, made $30 million its opening weekend. Massive disappointment, like huge, massive. I actually liked the first movie like quite a bit. I haven't seen the second one. I'm not in a rush to go see
Really? I
it.
thought you did.
I have not. I went to go see
No.
Creed 3 instead,
Mm, good choice.
which I honestly great movie. So not worried about that.
It
But
got you pumped up.
I yeah, I did. I had one of those moments where you come out of the theater and you're just like, because the soundtrack is so good
Yeah.
that I wanted to just like listen to those beats in the car, which is obviously the best place to listen to music. So yes, I had a great drive home. And then I was like, God, I should get into some sort of sport again. And I'm not going to do that. So Shazam comes out. Along with it, a lot like the director and the actors kind of having to defend their movie, which I think is unfair, but whatever. I think the movie itself is probably a victim to many things. Whether it's the actual quality of the movie itself, unlikely because not enough people have gone to see it to make it for that to be like a word of mouth problem. I think there is a bit of superhero burnout. Do you believe that superhero burnout is a real thing? Is the first question.
Yeah, I guess so.
Do you feel like you're experiencing it?
Uh, yeah, I'm not like, I guess I'm not rushing to see these movies. It just depends on what it is, right? Depends on what the project is, what's
Right.
interesting. Like Marvel, for sure, down the road, like them when they announced their slate, that is still an exciting prospect to see
For
what's
Marvel?
ahead, what to
Yeah.
culminate with. And then DC kind of doing a version of their own, but there's still so many things around that, and that's so far from kind of beginning. And we have these movies as like the last remnants of the old regime, but still Gunn kind of, you know, managing the ship with these movies to some
Well,
degree.
yeah. I mean, this movie feels especially like kind of in no man's land, in kind of lost in the shuffle, right? It comes out right around the same time as all this stuff is kind of being resorted out and all these kind of new announcements about new projects all the time. And of course, there's no announcements about how Shazam was going to be handled as a part of that, which is kind of like a warning sign probably for this franchise, right? And it couldn't feel apparently less disconnected from everything else, despite the fact that they had, and by the way, we heard about news about this in December last year that a cameo for this movie was offered to The Rock and he declined, which was the news we heard. And I was like, well, that's a shame, right? Well, apparently it's actually more complicated than that. And unsurprisingly, I suppose now, hindsight being 2020, it wasn't The Rock declining to do a cameo. It was much more involved. It was him actively working to prevent any connection between the Shazam movie and his Black Adam movie, including disallowing and petitioning for there not to be any inclusion of any of the JLA characters that were in that. Not even the Rock's character himself, but no one from that movie. And revolving around this concept that he really wanted to control the DCU. He kind of reached in with his kind of, as you said at the time, everyone's kind of putting their hand up saying that they have a take that they want to do it their way.
Yeah,
He felt like
everyone was shooting their shot for sure
exactly.
during that time. But Gunn knew the whole time, I think like 6 months ago, that he was eventually going to take it. which is weird how he kind of had to let everybody kind of just say whatever they're saying and shoot their shot.
Wait, Jeremy, you just sent me a picture here of The Rock talking to. Who's he talking to? Is that
That
Zachary
is
Levi?
yes, correct. That's Shazam.
Okay, so like, let's see if I put it up on the screen here for those who are live.
Oh,
It's
it just came out before you touched on it.
yeah.
Zachary Levi has not even seen Black Adam. He was just asked in an interview, and he said he's got like other things going on in his life, basically.
He wants to take. I think they all agree that it's best if no one mentions Shazam 2 for the rest of the time. They'll just not, and they're just gonna leave it at that for a while. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Rock stuff is unsurprising. It aligns with everything we already knew. It's disappointing in the same way it was disappointing when we heard it the first time. When these two characters, Shazam and Black Adam, are literally intrinsically connected, but the Rock did everything he could to sever that umbilical cord for his own personal gain.
To be fair, I think the plan was always for the third movie to kind of go down that path.
Sure.
With little teases here and there, but yeah, like it's just crazy how everyone's pointing the finger right now, and Zachary was trying to act like this that The Rock more people would have come, like it would have saved.
It wouldn't have mattered.
It's the same thing with that 5-second cameo of Havel that
Yeah.
that Rock was talking about and hinging on and promoting with a little bit of a different degree because I think that's a bigger story.
Yeah, that's a wild one.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think it's weird to throw shade at The Rock right now, and he's just kind of like,
Well, yeah, he's moved
but
on.
he didn't
right?
really take it on the chin that well, I guess, right? Kind of saying that it's not in James Gunn's plan right now,
Right.
kind of sugarcoating it, talking about the audience score, but that's what you got to do.
Oh yeah, the audience score thing. He is really good at the spin, right? Someone asks him a question, and he's just like he's just talking up a whole other narrative.
So that was the latest. It's like someone asked him like on a red carpet, and I'm sure PR was like probably
It was at the Oscars.
Yeah, it was at the Oscars, and he said, "You know what? It's we put our best foot forward. That's all you can try to do. We tried to make the best movie we could, and we took some shots from the critics, as it's part of the business. And then it's like when you're he says a winning quarterback and a winning coach, but then they get a new owner and they say, you're not my coach, you're not my quarterback. It's like
that's
that.
a good analogy.
And that's how he kind of left it. And then, I mean, is this where we transition quickly to the Tom Cruise story? Because that was kind of like the spin to promote Warner Brothers again in their upcoming projects, saw kind of The Rock, and have Tom Cruise promote this, I don't know, whatever this movie is that we've been
this Frankenstein of a thing. Yeah.
To promote it and say that he demanded to see it and that it's the movie we need right now.
First of all, I don't know what the movie we needed right now actually means. I don't know what that means. I don't think I mean, it's such a. I remember scrolling through Twitter and I saw that story and I was just like, I just looked at it, I rolled my eyes and I was like, sure. Why not? Why not have Tom Cruise demand to see this movie?
He gives it his blessing. So
yeah, I mean, which I think, when in terms of movies like that, there's really you want a blessing from Spielberg, Tom Cruise, or Coppola. Right. Yeah, I guess that's the trifecta.
Well, and then there's that like Spielberg Tom Cruise moment at some award show too, right? Where Spielberg basically tells Tom that he saved the cinema experience, like the movie going experience.
Yes, but then refused to show up to the Oscars. Yeah. Oh. Did you, by the way, speaking of Spielberg, I saw The Fabelmans. I thought it was pretty good. Better than I think I expected it to be. But like,
I tried watching. It was a little long for me.
It's a little slow. There's some moments that are like very, very good, but I do agree that it's a weird movie. Also, I just felt like the whole experience was odd because it's Spielberg telling this kind of like abstracted story about his own life, and I just feel like it's very it's like the definition of self-indulgent.
Super personal one too, like pretty dark.
Yeah.
But then also it's like this, we're just like witnessing this young genius play with all of his like editing equipment.
It's really cool. That part's really cool.
Time. Yeah.
So it gives you a new perspective. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, the point is here, Shazam was already doomed to fail. Really, like I mean, to be honest, it was.
Yeah.
It was coming out in a turbulent time. It's feels unconnected to anything else, and it doesn't seem like it was marketed very well. So what are you gonna do, right? It's best to just wash your hands of this stuff and just move on at this point. Is what I think. But
Full reboot.
yes, and it's coming, I
Well,
suppose, at
it's
this point.
probably not because James Gunn's wife is going to be in every.
Oh my god, yeah. So this is, by the way, that's the other thing. James Gunn has been taking nothing but heat online these days, but it's like over the lamest stuff. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
but he decided to reply to this one, which was pretty funny. I thought.
yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I, in fact, did not hire my wife for all these other movies. This was indeed this guy before I even
right,
got my role.
exactly. I mean, it's just like it's this righteous feeling that the fan group has. It's like, well, if you're gonna fire Cavill, you have to fire everyone,
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's like it doesn't really work that way. For God's sakes. I mean, I think I saw a funny person reference that like, in Iron Man, right? Jon Favreau literally cast himself to play Happy Hogan. like, are you if
Well, it probably saved some money too.
or sure, right? I mean, like it's like
he's an actor, and like
yes, of course, he's money and he doesn't even know it,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
the thing is, it's such a non-issue because it's like these movies aren't in production yet. He's made some vague announcements around these things, and the biggest concern that people have is that he might hire his wife for something. Who gives a shit? So anyway, that's my opinion on that. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, I just think it's funny because it's like it's basically the Walter Hamada verse who's gone now, like the last remnant
Sure.
from his movies, and he was trying to create the Marvelization
Sure.
of DC essentially, and have like a Nick Fury type character in her or whatever. It's just a coincidence that she happens to be married to James Gunn.
Right.
But
yeah.
then Stephen Ag, I think his name is, he's also
Yep.
like always popping up, and he's in the Suicide Squad. So, and then you have like David Ayer, and the Ayer cut is still a thing going on, and it's like it's so funny because James Gunn is like the new lead. He literally
Yep.
made the reboot of that movie.
yeah.
Like
Yep.
it's how is it like any more impossible for that movie to come
right.
to fruition now? Like how does that even work?
It couldn't possibly get
Yeah.
more impossible than it already
Right.
was, but yet here we are
And
talking.
then more,
yeah,
and
it's
then
wild.
more drama to add that led to the Tom Cruise news of the Flash is Ben Affleck had an interview where he basically just said that reiterated it was the worst experience of his life working on the Justice League
yeah.
movie.
Yes.
Basically said he contemplated suicide wherever he was.
Well,
Away
that's
from
not
his
funny.
kids.
I take that back.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And then obviously all the things that Ray Fisher, on the side, also accused of that
Yes.
set and whatnot. So it's like still like just weird things coming out about that. And then him saying that he has no interest in working or directing a James Gunn
Yes.
DC led project, which is that's where more drama and fire and shots are coming from because uh, Gunn tweeted, about Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill and all that stuff, and
Sure.
mentioned that they had a great, meeting, and that it was precisely for him to direct. We're just looking for the right project and whatnot. So it's just very odd that like things like that are kind of clear as day from the two people's mouths
Couldn't be
contradict
more
each other.
opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I just feel like, okay, Ben came back to do the Flash for God knows what reason. I don't know how much
He
money
stays
they
in for
offered him.
5 minutes, and he also said he finally figured out how to nail the character.
I figured it out, and now I'm
Yeah.
done. right? And it seems like he's not interested in directing because he's not aligned with like the tone and direction that Gunn is taking the Batman stuff or what have you. And fair enough. I think that's
a Affleck movie.
Yeah, I think that's a totally valid reason to be like not interested. And for James Gunn to say we had a good meeting about the potential of him directing could mean that they met, the meeting went fine, he just said no, right? And that could be and that could just be a more spin to try to keep the fans at bay a little bit here. But like at this point, I think the message is clear, right? You got to let it play out. What good is being angry online?
Yeah, but as
now?
as fans, right? You gotta let it play out, sure. But then you had Black Adam, Shazam 2, you have Aquaman 2,
Yes.
and then the Flash is supposed to be part of that, but now we're all awareness of the Flash is actually like the first one, and it's a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness type thing,
Right.
Spider-Man No Way Home type thing that sets off chain reaction or whatever.
Yes. It's the
But
Flashpoint movie, which we had talked about
right.
literally 3 years ago or
Yeah,
whatever.
they've
Yeah.
just been trying to use it to fix all their problems at the studio, and which is embarrassing and a disgrace.
Yeah, because it keeps
That
happening right in daylight. It's like
well, it's just a disgrace to the character itself. The Flash movie it shouldn't be
a Batman
in this
movie.
truncated mess.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I I I don't, you know how I feel about the Ezra Miller version of
Right.
the Flash. I am
Tom
not.
Cruise is fine with it though. More than
No,
fine.
no. He just said it's the movie we need right now. There is no further comment. We don't know how he feels
Called
about
up
Ezra Miller.
Andy Muschietti himself.
Demanded to see it. Imagine being. I mean, I guess here's the thing. If you're Tom Cruise and you want to see a movie like that, sure,
Yeah.
why not? I just like I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm not even. I just can't. I literally can't wrap my head around why we need to know about it. But I guess you're right, Jeremy. Ultimately, there's everything's a mess. Their next two movies, right? Aquaman 2 and The Flash, are also seemingly walking the guillotine, right? The Flash might do well based on word of mouth or because it's exciting or because it's so bad it's good or whatever. But Aquaman 2,
or it might fail because
because no one gives a shit
fans
about
online, certain particular fans online refuse to see the movie,
right
and then they'll just
out of
blame
spite.
Zack Snyder all over Twitter again. When he's like just making when he's just making movies for Netflix right now.
He's just literally making a Star Wars ripoff. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just
Um,
constantly being named alongside Warner Brothers and James Gunn, just
it is
nonstop.
impressive how much his legacy on this stuff has just can't be escaped, right? I
Mhm.
mean, the news, the article I saw the other day was that the original Suicide Squad had originally had connections to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it's like, yeah, of course it did. Why is this news? I don't understand.
Everyone is just really behind. We're just so like ultra involved and can see everything and the dominoes and the reactions and whatnot. But I guess because it's been so long since something like successful as like uh you know come after it,
Sure.
it's just in constant comparison and discussion.
Yeah, there
And
hasn't been.
no
What's the
one
last
knows
good
what to
one?
do.
I guess
No
the
one knows how
Batman.
to handle these characters.
Right.
And then we bring up Christopher Nolan. Oh, look at him. He's pissed. He's gone. He's at Universal.
Right. Yeah. He's about to release a new movie that's going to blow everyone's mind, literally. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the time frame after once the Flash 2 comes out, we can just like I said, wipe our hands clean of all of this and just move on.
And then we enter into the unknown. And what else broke this news cycle essentially is James Gunn officially announced and tweeted a huge Twitter thread that he's indeed directing the Superman movie.
Well, I mean, we knew he was writing it, so that's not necessarily a big stretch.
No, but it's just funny
but
how like it's like announced that this way.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
like if it was
through
it's like
Twitter.
yeah, well, and like spacing out the writer. Okay, yeah, I'm actually directing it, and then it's like people are. It's like if you're making memes or jokes of it, it's like he says like he relates it all to his dad or something like that, and like he cracked the story. He finally knows what to do, but he forgot that it was his dad's birthday or something. It was when he announced the release date of this.
Oh, okay.
So
That
like
is a weird.
it's
That
just
is
a
kind of
lot of
weird.
like funny like things. Everyone just
It's
like
like he doesn't have a press like
no, not at all.
person. It's like, couldn't you just like release a press like a press release?
Yeah.
To say, hey, official announcement coming from DC Studios, James Gunn to direct and write Superman movie set to
Yeah.
release 2025. That if you did that, that's all you need to do. He'd get asked questions on Twitter. He can respond to whatever ones he wants. This idea of having to like be preempted, I think they just need to like let it breathe. Marvel's taking this step, going to take this kind of like slower roll approach. It's going to be several years until we get this Superman movie, and between that time, just don't say anything at all. That's probably the best thing you could do. I honestly believe
It's
that.
impossible.
No, it's not. You don't have to say anything.
There's just too many fanatics out there who have different opinions,
I guess. I guess so.
and nothing's really happening except for these old ass movies that we got that are eventually gonna come out, and 2 of them are done.
I hear
Then
Aquaman 2 is
yeah,
terrible.
they're saying that that one's terrible now.
Yeah.
But then
Oh,
Jason Momoa is gonna jump ship and do another character under gun.
probably Lobo,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
very on the nose, but it makes sense.
It does. Yeah, it does. He gets to continue doing that yeah thing that he
Yeah.
does so well. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about DC? It's
Well, yeah, we'll just tail it off with the full circle SnyderCon kind of announcement
uh-huh.
throughout all this uh, mess, which I find funny. Um, and it was done in a cool tease with like using Ray Porter, the voice of Darkseid,
Oh, that's cool.
talking about. He just says like the date, like the month, the day, and the year, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and says save the date. It's like a cool like transmission, like looks like a transmission like General Zod put out like in
Oh,
Man of
that's
Steel or
cool.
whatever. Yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh, what's this?" And then it said hashtag full circle. So then everyone's like, "Oh, what does that mean?" Like the hero's journey, full circle, like
Mm-hmm.
beginning, middle, and end. So people are trying to like, "Oh yeah, this is where we push, the sell the Snyderverse to Netflix or all that stuff, right?"
Right. Well, I mean,
But
hey,
essentially, it looks like this is a SnyderCon. It's 3-day event. Man of Steel will be shown the first day, BVS the second day, and then Justice League the third day, and it's going to be on IMAX, like the never before shown like
that's
best
cool.
IMAX screens. And then there's gonna be some panels, and then apparently Jim Lee is designing a shirt to be sold. Uh,
So they're kind of trying to like they're kind of trying to like judo move this whole thing where they're gonna like um kind of roll with the punches that they're like we've been getting our asses kicked by these people for so long.
I
Let's
think
just like
so.
embrace it the whole
I
thing.
think that's what it is. But like some
Yeah.
people are trying to scoop that it's basically Warner Brothers playing with Zack Snyder, like to come to some sort of like vocal finality to whatever the Snyderverse is, or him and Warner Brothers, but also like celebrate it at the same time. Have Jim Lee involved, panels. They're allowing him to show these movies. So I
Right.
don't know. It's like a because if you do that, on one hand, you're working with them. Like, yeah, you give fans what they want, but then it's just gonna like reinforce fans and like they're gonna want
Exactly.
to even get it. Well, I mean, like, they're gonna want it even more if that's the case. Like, because Zach said he is down to do it if they will have him, right?
What would be nice? Here's what I think would be nice. Okay? A nice middle ground. Do an animated conclusion to the whole
Yeah,
thing. Right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. No one's ever heard that one before.
let's do an animated movie, end the whole thing on that, and we can call it a, or just like repurpose the Justice League and like that big conclusion with Doomsday.
Yeah.
That's just that animated movie, whatever that was called. I want to call it Doom, but it's not that. Um, and just rebrand that and just re-release it as the
Right.
conclusion of the Snyderverse.
Just get it over with. Just get it out there as
Well, I
abysmally
mean,
small as possible.
at this point, do you not want like the chances of getting all those actors and all that stuff back
Oh,
for
yeah,
some
I'm
sort
a
of
real
it's
yeah, for
impossible. I
sure,
mean, it's
yeah,
just not going to happen. So what's
100%.
realistic? You want to see the
Yeah,
end of the story? What's the most realistic way? A movie, but an animated movie. That's okay. That's better than nothing. I feel like get the actors to come back to do the voices. That's a lot easier. You don't have to get them all
yeah.
together at the same time. I don't know. Maybe that's
Yeah,
just
no, for me, it's just, like, so, like, the possibility of it being just so peak, like, everything and what it's trying to be and set
sure
out to be is just such a
disappointment.
tantalizing, like, thing. But, yeah, so it ends up being a massive disappointment where I just don't even care then, like
Right. If
it's
it's not
almost like
going to
a
be, if
sla
it
it's
can't
almost
be
like
all of it,
you
it
saying that,
can't
like,
be
"Here's the
done.
thing, let's just do this." It's kinda like a slap in the face,
Like
I would say.
right. It's like if you unless you can give me everything, I want nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I understand that.
And then as all these shitty movies come out and
Right. You're like, told you so.
just the
Right.
pollution of superhero movies, it's like, "Man, we coulda had a cool 5-movie epic thing going on here
But here
with
we are.
some pretty cool characters that they pay respect to." Like, the scenes that leaked in, Shazam 2 of Wonder Woman and Gal are just embarrassing. It's just them, like, doing, like, the
Yeah.
jokey dating, "I wanna date you. I'm 18, soon." And her just, like, walking away
Yeah.
like a model, smiling, winking.
Well, it wasn't even Gal Gadot there. They had like a body
Well,
double.
no, she was there for that one, but then they had a body double for a scene where the wizard like went over her face
Oh, okay.
because Billy's dreaming about her or something.
Oh, weird. All right.
So
But,
just another
I mean,
stupid.
sure,
But I guess
we
it
could
lies
have
with kids or something. I don't know.
we could have had a 5 movie epic, but instead we're here talking about James Gunn's wife.
Yeah,
So that's just where it is. That's just the world we live in
it's
now.
brutal.
The
But
everything is
you
worse
know,
now.
we do have to look forward to the Snyder Cut. I think that's a really cool thing where all three movies are being shown
That is
IMAX for the
cool.
first time. Jim Lee designing a shirt that like
Where
kind
is
of
this?
encompasses the whole thing. Uh,
Is it
I'm
like
not sure. I think it's in
L.A.
Las
or
Vegas.
San
I think it's in
Diego
Las
or something?
Vegas actually.
Oh, that's cool. All right,
Yeah.
that's cool. Isn't that where they had that billboard that the fans bought? Was that in Vegas or was that L.A.?
Not sure.
Oh, all right.
They
Anyway,
still they still buy planes with messages being streamed in the back of them.
I'm sure the Warner Brothers executives love that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Here's a
Okay.
little bit of good news out of DC stuff. Clancy Brown, a longtime DC actor, voice actor for a long, long time, played Luthor, Lex Luthor in the Justice League animated shows. Will
The
play Salvatore.
DCAU,
Yes, the pinnacle of all things DC, really at this point.
the original cohesive
That's right.
universe,
That's right.
other than the comic books themselves.
Right. That's obviously fair.
But that
Anyway.
happened kind of later on, more like
Well, I don't know.
confused.
They've been doing crossover events and stuff
But
for
then,
a long time.
but then
Yeah.
it's like the cartoon does it so much better because you're just like you're living with these characters
Well,
in a
you
cohesive
had
way.
3 seasons of Batman the animated series or 2 seasons
Yeah,
or whatever.
the art's
And
always the
then
same, the voice
yeah.
actors are always the same, the setting's always the same, the music's all familiar.
Yes.
It's realized.
Yeah. What a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, Clancy Brown, who comes from that legacy, he'll be playing Salvatore Maroni in the upcoming The Penguin series. That's
Very
actually
cool.
something I am pretty excited about still. Wild that we have a Penguin series at all. To be honest, I think that's pretty cool. And it really great to see Clancy Brown kind of come on there. And then of course, speaking of the animated series, Batman: The Caped Crusader, which is kind of being billed as the spiritual successor, has the Bruce Timm stamp of approval. He's involved, all that kind of stuff. We
A
were
lot of
worried it was
names initially, but
yeah.
maybe it's still the same. Because it had
And
who else did it have? It had
was it J.J. Abrams or is that a different
J.J.
thing?
Abrams, yeah, and
Someone else I don't remember now.
well, the director of the Batman.
Oh yeah.
We just can't do names.
No, not anymore. Batman: The Caped Crusader will now be released by Amazon Studios or Amazon Prime Video, and they have a 2-season order. So, good news there. It's going to continue. It's going to be real. And to be honest, if it's half as good as Batman the Animated Series, it'll go longer than 2 seasons because there's a pent-up demand for this type of content. Happy to see that it found a home and didn't get canned along with the rest of the DC, whatever the HBO Max stuff like Titans, which is getting
Last season. There's
yeah,
a new
this final season.
animated movie coming out, I think, next week. It's a Batman one.
A Batman one?
Yeah. And
Really?
it's like set in the olden days again, kind of like Gotham by Gaslight.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a news story, I believe. The trailer's actually pretty good. It's like a cool mystery.
DC animated next movie. Catwoman Hunted, Batman, Green Lantern, Beware My Power,
Those
Legion
are
of
all
Superheroes. These are all old ones. I've seen most of them. Let's see here. The next one is Legion of Superheroes, February 7th. That came out already.
Yeah. I didn't watch that one. It doesn't look very good.
Okay. And then I don't know what's going on here.
Just we
Other
can't do
short
both
films. Reception, sales performance. This is the Wikipedia. It doesn't seem to have the upcoming releases.
Wikipedia.
Anyway, hold on. I think I saw something. Other universes. Gotham by Gaslight, set in the Nolan verse, although it's not necessarily considered canon. Wait, what? No, that doesn't make any sense. There's no way that's true.
No, that's Wikipedia for you.
That Wikipedia. That's right. Anyway, I am concerned. I am, to be honest, still concerned about the future of the Warner Brothers Animation, DC Animation studios in this current shakeup. We haven't got a lot of clarity on that, and that gives me concern. So,
Well, we know that it needs to be cohesive with video games, TV, movies,
Hey, man,
and
Star Wars can do
animation
it.
is
Star
yeah,
Wars can do it. If Star Wars can
yeah.
do it, anyone can do it. That's what I say. Um, okay, moving on from DC stuff. Tarantino, who we just did the film club on Jackie Brown. Tarantino set to direct or make his 10th and final film, as far as he says, right? He's written it, his 10th film. It's called The Movie Critic, which, you know what? Honestly, not upset about as someone who is a movie critic. And will apparently feature a female lead, presumably with nice feet. So, yeah, that's all we know, really. I guess I'm still a little skeptical that he'll follow through with this only making 10 movies and not making any other movies after that plan. I am skeptical of that. But hey, and I guess the other thing is I didn't love his last movie, which I know other people really liked, but it just didn't work for me. You really like it? Oh, man,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's just too slow, I feel like. So we'll see. I mean, it certainly doesn't sound like an action film. But I mean, who knows? That doesn't necessarily mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. Neither does Jackie Brown, but it's also not really an action film. Any thoughts on Tarantino and his final movies?
No, I'm just excited to see whatever he comes up with.
Sure.
I think he's just the king of dialogue.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair
And
assessment.
he's just just the perfect like student of classic film and just like new age.
Yeah, I wish my pinky finger, the tip of my pinky finger contains as much the tip of his pinky finger contains as much film knowledge as my entire body together. So, yeah, I mean, he is a genius when it comes to this stuff. You know, his stuff is a mixed bag. I think you either like it, you either love it or you hate it a lot of the time. There's not a lot of in between very often. I read a whole essay about how his dedication to his entire oeuvre, his entire filmography, as being one piece of art in and of itself is admiring and something to be admired. But
Yeah, we knew that a long time ago because like you can stack movies of his and they can all be different, like Jackie Brown compared to
sure,
Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill, but like they all feel like they're made by the same director. Like you can just it's just a thing.
there's a
It's
vibe.
just
Yeah,
yeah.
and he wants
And
to
and
avoid
it's a
this problem.
but it's a
Yeah.
classical professional vibe.
Well, he talks about wanting to avoid this idea of like good Spielberg versus bad Spielberg, or you could name that for any kind of major long-running director, which is this idea that
Yes.
once they
Spirit has
reached
so many.
a point, there's no like their movies they become less good, right? I mean, you could theoretically make that same argument about Tarantino's movies, like his later movies not being as good, or vice versa. But he wants to avoid that, which is why he thinks 10 movies is enough, and then he's done. And you got to respect it if he does follow through. But I'm not convinced. All right, let's talk a little bit about Star Wars here. This is obviously not the Star Wars podcast, but I wanted to talk about it because it's a movie discussion, and we don't often have a chance to talk about the movies because A, there isn't any, and B, we're concentrated on the TV stuff. But the last movie that we got from Star Wars was Star Wars Episode 9, and that movie sucks balls. And
Baseballs.
it sucks Spaceballs. Spaceballs is a 10 times the movie that Episode 9 is, in my opinion. But and since then, there's countless stories about why that movie is terrible and what happened and pulling JJ back in and firing the previous directors and all this other stuff. But they're saying, Bob Iger says, quote, Solo, a Star Wars story, was disappointing, and they are being quote-unquote careful with their future Star Wars movies. Which makes me wonder, why are we piling onto Star Wars a Solo movie, or Solo, a Star Wars story, and not Episode 9, right? Like, are you? Why are you even bringing up Solo?
They already did. They did it before. Kathleen Kennedy did it, right?
Yeah.
Like we learned our lessons off of characters like Solo, and like we won't be doing that again.
It's like they keep learning the wrong lessons.
These actors
it's so
are just
wild.
sitting over like, hey, like what? I'm sitting right over here.
Yeah, like the problem with Solo was not its performances. The movie's fine, right? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty fun. It's
Ron
pretty
Howard
funny.
saved that movie.
I mean, did he? I don't even know. We don't know.
Literally, he did.
Well, he literally had to finish the movie because the Russos were fired.
Not the Russos.
Oh, sorry, not the Russos. Who was it? It was not the Russos. Who am I
guys
thinking
who
of?
are doing the Spider-Verse movies now, I think.
Yes, you're right.
They're just like super.
The Lego Movie people. The Lego Movie people.
Right.
Yeah, the brother. It's all about directing duos now. That's the big deal. The Daniels, the Russos, the Lego people.
We almost had a duo for the Flash, but technically the Flash might be kind of a duo because Muschietti works with his wife, I think.
Right. That's cool.
And does movies. So,
I mean, the point is, it's cruel and unusual punishment to keep throwing Solo under the bus when clearly it was mismanaged. It was released way too close to episode 8.
It's a pretty memorable movie, though. Like, you remember the things that happened in that movie.
Yes, I do.
Like, I remember him and Chewie meeting for the first time. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. The Kessel Run is pretty cool. Yeah.
Lando's great.
Lando is unbelievable. I don't get him back as Lando immediately is my opinion on that. Like, why do we it's like, oh, we're not going to what are you talking about? You're not going to recast characters. You're going to keep using these weird CG amalgamation things to do Luke and he's going to have his own no fucking way. No. Yeah. So, I don't know what the hell they're smoking over there at Lucasfilm, but I saw a list. I wonder if I can find it. I can pull it up on my Twitter, but it was like yesterday or the day before where it was someone bringing up a list of the creatives who have been fired from Star Wars projects versus the ones who've actually completed projects or uncompleted projects versus completed projects. And it's like the list of uncompleted and versus completed and or fired versus not fired is so long. Here, I got it here. Completed Star Wars versus did not complete Star Wars. So this is over the same period of time, starting from The Force Awakens, right? So we have completed Star Wars projects. J.J. Abrams' The Force Awakens, Rian Johnson's Last Jedi. Those were started and finished as their original process. Then we have did not complete Disney Star Wars movies. Gareth Edwards' Rogue One, rewritten and reshot by Tony Gilroy. Josh Trank, Boba Fett, canceled. Lord Miller, Solo, that's the duo. Reshot by Ron Howard. Colin Trevorrow, Duel of the Fates, rewritten by J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. Stephen Daldry, Obi-Wan Kenobi, now Disney Plus show. James Mangold, Boba Fett, now Disney Plus show. Benioff and Weiss, Untitled Jedi prequel, canceled. Patty Jenkins, Rogue Squadron, canceled. J.D. Dillard, Untitled film, canceled. Kevin Feige and Michael Waldron, Untitled film, canceled. Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson, Untitled post-episode 9 film, replaced by unknown writer. So, it's like, that's a rap sheet, man.
They filmed like a mini commercial for the Rogue Squadron movie with what's her name?
She was on a tarmac. She had a little outfit on. There was an X-wing there.
And then it was the same thing, talking about her dad and like...
It's all about dads. Dads and their children.
An emotional, relatable story or whatever. And then we're supposed to, they can do it. Then she puts on the helmet and like drives away or whatever on a motorcycle or something. Or a bicycle. No, rollerblades. Is that what happened?
She takes a jetpack and then flies away. I don't remember the rollerblades. I don't think that's true. I don't know.
I think it's rollerblades.
I don't know if that's true. I remember everything else, but that piece does not. I either erased it from my memory or it didn't happen. I don't know.
And then like a year later, she was like basically like fired off of like the potential of a new Wonder Woman movie.
Yes,
too.
because
she had a huge statement. Remember, she released like a huge like black and white statement text around the same time Henry Cavill had to do the same thing.
Yes, he was basically because
anarchy.
Yeah,
and then the other week,
chaos.
She's with Jim Lee at the Warner Brothers studio lot, and she's unveiling a Wonder Woman statue. That's like the costume of Gal Gadot, Zack Snyder's version of Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
is absolutely hilarious.
I actually like Patty Jenkins.
The documentary of all this that's gonna be made one day will open up a lot of eyes.
Yeah, I like
to like that narrow narrative or whatever that like not everyone is on. I guess I don't know.
What I don't understand is, so here's the thing. couple things, right? Just sticking with the Star Wars stuff for a moment, which is like why they feel the need to announce these projects if they don't feel they're confident that they'll happen. You know, unless you have a writer signed and you've got a plan, you've got a story outline, you got kind of actors kind of shoehorned in, you kind of have an idea of who's going to be playing what, and a director, and you feel like you can get into production in the next 6 months, don't announce the project. Like
Yeah, well, they got caught up in just content creation, making a slate, get people excited, get them subscribed. They need to be
yeah.
subscribed for longer. Sign the actors for multiple contracts. Like that's just part of the industry, and that's just how it was done. And
But then okay, fair enough. Then why do you keep shelving these projects? I don't like if you need to have this slate, then make the fucking slate. I don't understand this. I don't get it.
Because you have individual creators who want to bring a lot of their shit to the table.
God forbid, yeah.
But then
fuck that.
but then they put someone in charge to oversee everything and make sure this doesn't counteract that, or it's not in line with this, and we need that Disney Marvel kind of branding, that feeling, that family engagement.
Yeah, but I mean,
like all
Andor
into
isn't
this.
that. I mean, that's what I mean. That's why it's so like wild to me. I mean, like Gareth Edwards comes and he just creates this fucking masterpiece of a show, right? That couldn't feel more differently than anything else that's been made. Sorry, Tony Gilroy, not Gareth Edwards. Apologies. I'm sure he's still dreaming about his version of Rogue One, but it just Star Wars was started on the big screen, and it was only on the big screen until recently, right? And the TV stuff is succeeding, and I'm glad that it is. But I want to see a goddamn Star Wars movie, and they have a date locked in for I think 2025, December 2025. That was going to be the Rogue Squadron movie. They're holding that date for a Star Wars movie, but there's nothing in development, so it's unlikely anything's going to fill that slot, and it'll be filled by something else, and we'll all be like, oh well, there goes another one. This reminds me a lot of the time we had this exact same conversation about, I think, was it DC directors? They were just like chewing through creatives like it was going out of style. Remember this? This was probably like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
And
Flash director was one of that. Movie is literally not out yet.
yeah. And it's like, so and clearly I think it's obvious to me that strategy of recycling creatives and trying to find this perfect fit, perfect being the enemy of good, did not work for them in the DC space. And this idea that, we need to avoid another Solo. I'll tell you how to avoid another Solo, okay? Don't release another Star Wars movie 3 months after the last one, and properly market it. Those are the two. Those two things will guarantee you success as a Star Wars film. But no, you guys are caught up in this idea that, again, I'm speculating about what they want out of these movies, and I don't understand what it is, because clearly the shows are figuring it out. Take some of those concepts and blow them up into a Star Wars. I mean, you haven't seen it, but The Mandalorian episode 3, actually episode 2, season 3, episode 2 and 3, feature some of the best action sequences we've seen in Star Wars in a long time. Space sequences, all this kind of stuff. I want to see that stuff on the big screen. The critics, TV critics and stuff, get invited to these things. They get to see it on the big screen. Lucky them. But the rest of us, sure, we got nice TVs, Jeremy. Sure,
Yeah.
but that's not the point. Give me something. What is it that you guys feel like you need to have as a part of a Star Wars movie to be able to justify putting something into production? Rogue Squadron sounded awesome. What is it about? Was it because Patty Jenkins she's in director's jail, so you're not allowed to? Oh, we're all gonna collude together and not hire her for stuff. Like, what is the impetus for this? I sound like I'm going crazy, but it's just because like this stuff doesn't need to be so hard. I feel, in my opinion. Again, obviously, I don't know anything about movie making, but I think it is an indictment to say, that tweet that I just read about all those canceled or changed projects, highlights the fact that they have had a problem committing to a singular creative vision, and worse, that people are like defending it and saying, "Oh, you don't know how movie making works." It's like, no. I don't know exactly how movie making works. I've never made a movie, but I do know that other studios make movies just fine, and they don't chew through creatives, and those things tend to work out pretty good. So, I think it's fair to highlight when they're making mistakes. I think they have been making mistakes. I'm not a Kathleen Kennedy hater, but it does feel like they are learning some of the wrong lessons. So anyway, that's my big rant for the day.
All
What do you
right.
think, Jeremy? Anything else that you would add to that?
No.
Okay. Warner Brothers and New Line are coming back to make more Lord of the Rings movies. They want to make more movies set in that world, that universe. They're seeing some of the success, I guess, that Amazon is having, and they're going to try to make more Lord of the Rings movies. Nothing is going to surpass the original 3 movies.
Never.
Nothing will, and just admit that if you can come to that conclusion, then sure, make whatever the hell you want. Just don't pretend like it's going to be like the second coming of Christ when it's not. Okay,
When it already happened.
It already happened. You're not going to get all the people that you would want in those movies are as characters are either way too old or dead. So I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen in the way that you want it to, Lord of the Rings fans. I'm sorry, it feels like a cash grab.
Lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, really, truly.
Frodo Baggins. Elijah Wood.
Here's yeah, Elijah Wood, whose career is really strange now. I guess my only thoughts on this would be I actually liked Rings of Power on Amazon Prime. I enjoyed being back in the world and experiencing that kind of like very pure fantasy storytelling. No, it's not perfect. Neither will these movies. Will I go see them? Yes, I will enjoy being back in that world. That's the long story short. Yeah, I don't know.
They're just so good though. The OG trilogy.
I know. Yeah, truly.
What was like? No matter when you watch it, how you watch it, you're in for a ride.
But those will always still be there, and that's what really matters, right? They're not going anywhere. They're not gonna pull Warner Brothers and remove them from the past.
The third movie is showing. The extended version is showing in April, I believe.
Really, in theaters? That's cool for like a 10th anniversary or something.
Yeah, but on the Cineplex app, it just said it was at McGilvery, with the VIP
really?
theaters.
The new one?
No.
Oh, really?
Not new. The VIP theaters.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Which is kind of a shitty
it is a crappy theater.
Quality. Mm-hmm. There's no quality there.
I would like movie theater experiences to be improved. That's my general opinion on that.
Yeah, well, that new AVX at Transcona is pretty sick.
It is. I don't love the seats.
I'm gonna see Mario there.
Yeah. I think that's a good experience. Brighter screen, big difference. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, big sound.
Exactly. All right. This is just a bit of a nostalgia thing for me. Teletoon, which has been the Canadian cartoon kids channel since I was a baby, is now officially being discontinued. It is being replaced by Cartoon Network Canada, which clearly does not have the same ring to it. Sad day. Watched many an episode of Sticking Around, Recess. Batman probably was on there. Who knows? I've watched a lot of stuff on Teletoon. But anyway, just wanted to call that out for those Canadian listeners out there. And then lastly, something also that's close to my heart. Tron 3, a movie that should have been made probably 5 years ago, is going to actually happen, apparently, so we're told. It's going to feature Jared Leto for some fucking reason, and it's being directed by Joaquin Renning, who is, I guess, best known for Pirates of the Caribbean, something Tides or whatever. I don't know which one it was, like the 4th or 5th movie. Yes, there's 4 or 5 of those movies, which is even wilder. Here's the thing, right? Tron Legacy is so fucking good. If you've never seen that movie, do yourself a favor and throw that on. It is a crime. The only thing that I'm excited about for Tron 3 now is that I assume that with that, as a part of the marketing effort, they'll re-release an HDR 4K version of Tron Legacy to get us excited. And I will buy that movie. But other than that, it's like, I don't know. I just don't really care for Jared Leto these days. And they really, I feel like they really captured lightning in a bottle. I mean, who's the director was the Top Gun Maverick director, for God's sakes. And he knows how to make a movie. Yeah.
Krasinski. Garrett Hudlin too.
Yeah, seriously. 100%.
Wild.
Yes. Those are great. Those are great actors. That's a great director. I mean, no, it had its problems. It's not a perfect movie, but like give him a chance to like figure that out. why does Jared Leto give a shit? Like, why does he care? I don't know. Maybe he's a legacy fan like me. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna quickly just mention a couple things. Watch Creed 3. Really enjoyed it. Could have been longer, to be honest. Felt it was a tight 2 hours, but I feel like it could have been. I feel like given the subject material, given how good Jonathan Majors is in it, I would have liked to have seen more. And as I mentioned, Ted Lasso. Been rewatching that in preparation for season 3. Binged it all with my girlfriend. We did all 2 seasons in like 4 or 5 days. Bawled my eyes out once again. Absolutely amazing show. Really a truly the most feel good show you'll ever watch. I honestly believe that. It is just lovely to watch people be nice to each other. And that is the extent of what Ted Lasso really is. It's kind of like framed up in this sports analogy, and that's cool too. But season 3 is here. I believe it's the final season, which does give me a little bit of pause. It kind of breaks my heart a little bit. But it's just so good, and I think it's one of those shows that I just don't do this. By the way, I don't rewatch shows. I don't rewatch movies very often. I'd usually on to the next new thing or whatever. But rewatching Ted Lasso, I've seen the first season of Ted Lasso now 3 times, maybe 4. It is a perfect season of television. The second season is a little bit bumpier. I've now seen it twice, but I could easily see this as a show that I could rewatch as a 3-season thing every single year and be forever. Yeah, exactly. And it really is something special. I think it won a bunch of Emmys. It's deserved those Emmys, and I hope it wins more. That's my general opinion on that. All right, let's talk about The Last of Us. We talked a little bit about this. Maybe I'll try to stitch that in here somewhere in the conversation. But we got the first season, retells the story of the first game. So spoilers for The Last of Us Season 1. And actually, I guess spoilers for The Last of Us, the first game and the second game. I'm just going to put it all on the table here if it comes up in the discussion. I really liked certain elements of it. It's impressive how much it's able to recreate the game, sometimes 1-to-1, which in a very impressive way. It's very cool that more people get to see this story. But I didn't connect with it in the way that I wanted to connect with it. I don't know, Jeremy, like, did you...
How did you want to connect with it?
Yeah, and this is the challenge. I don't know what the answer to that question is, because I liked the game. I played it once, right? It was like an event. It's kind of one of those milestone moments in someone's gaming oeuvre, right? There's before The Last of Us, and then there's after The Last of Us, right? And it was such an impressive experience, and it was like, wow, how amazing would this be as a movie, or a show or whatever. But now that we have it as that, and it's literally just a recreation of those things, the things that I liked the most from the show were the things that were new and not just recreations of the game. And it really made me kind of like reconsider how I approach kind of this idea of adapting something from any one medium to another, and like really leaning into what that new medium can do that the other medium couldn't do, right? That's where you get the episodes like episode 3, right? And that's my favorite episode of the season. It's this amazing story of humanity in this inhumane world. It really gives you a sense of kind of like the loneliness and dread that exists in this post-apocalyptic time. And then the rest of the episodes, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Get ready for this. This is gonna be wild. My girlfriend's saying like, oh, what's gonna happen? I'm like, I'm not telling you shit. I'm like, I'm not spoiling it for anyone. And I think that's the best way if you've never seen a story before. But for me, especially the finale, I was looking to kind of, Jeremy, I'll fucking start bawling my eyes out at the drop of a hat. I go into these events, these shows, these movies, and I want to feel something, right? And I'm like, open up my chest, and I'm like, okay, a thing that I'm watching affect me, right? I come back to that empathy machine thing, that movies and TV is just an empathy machine. It's designed to make you feel things, right? And this is why Ted Lasso works for me so well. It makes me feel these really nice feelings. It's a lovely experience. Where now The Last of Us, obviously very dark. I think that's a part of it. It's just so dour. It's so dark that it's kind of hard to be like, ooh, can't wait for the next one. you know? But more than that, I think it's like this, and I've been thinking about this now for a while because it's been what, 2 weeks since the finale. And I think it ultimately comes down to is I know how the story goes, and that was
Bingo.
a massive that was like a massive
Oh, it is. It is.
detraction for me, and I was like, I couldn't be as invested in the story because I just knew where it was going already. So I don't know. What's your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from, but for me, I think from the beginning, I was like, we don't even need this. Like the game is just so perfect. The
Right.
experience, the immersion, the acting, with the mocap and the voice acting. We know who the actors are in Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson. Like we know their names. We see their faces in the behind
Sure.
the scenes stuff, and Naughty Dog's
They're in the
all over
show.
YouTube.
Yeah.
They're in IGN. Like we just know Naughty Dog is like this premium company that just makes the best products, including the Uncharted games. So, but I'm just like happy that that thing that we all know and love and went through like exists in this form and has like these pretty, legendary actors who are going to be legends, like do these roles in a slightly different way, but also very similar way, and like that's satisfying enough for me too. And then just seeing their growth from the beginning to the end is pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Uh, and But I agree with the element of surprise is not really there. You're kind of just like, yeah, I know what happens next. So you're just kind of over analyzing that, or maybe over critiquing it a little bit,
Maybe. Yeah, that's
trying
fair.
to find differences here and there. But overall, I enjoyed it. I just liked getting a basically an hour of premium content around The Last of Us, which is made by the
Sure.
creator of The Last of Us, actors who are in The Last of Us, fans of the game. Just this never before like amalgamation of two mediums working together and making this love letter to The Last of Us, and like you said, transition it to that medium in a proper way to explore characters more in depth
Hmm.
in different scenarios. So like I said before, I think this is just like the beginning of, or this is the blueprint of how you create or recreate an existing IP
Yeah.
for a new medium. And we're gonna get a taste of that too. I think with Mario, which I mentioned a while back, with Mario and
Well,
Nintendo working
I
with
think that's gonna be really different. I really do think that it's gonna be very abstracted because obviously, there's no like direct story to adapt from a Mario game, right? But like in this case, first of all, I really loved um, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey's performance. I think that can't be understated. Absolutely crushed it, for sure, 100%.
yeah.
I think I don't think you can critique those performances at all. I think that's they're unimpeachable.
And
Um,
they like take turns too. Like it was really Joel heavy the beginning of the season,
yeah.
right? All eyes on Pedro essentially. But then Bella just had more to do, more to work with in the latter half, and I just thought
Hmm.
she just destroyed. I think even better than Pedro in my opinion.
Yeah.
Uh, and Pedro kind of had it easy too in that like the last episode. Like it's just Call of Duty at that point. Uh,
Yeah, that really I like so I feel like here's a like that ending is hard in the game, right? Because you're forced to do it, and I think that truly has a massive impact on how you experience that. I waited as long as I possibly could to not shoot that doctor when I played the game personally.
wait,
And
interesting.
it's the game or the show is asking you this moral quandary, right? Like, is it ethical to kill these people to save this girl's life, or is it ethical to kill this girl to save everyone's life potentially, right? Or for the possibility of doing so. And that's a fair, valid question. I think you could go around in circles talking about that all day. I think the show doesn't necessarily, or the game necessarily makes you pick a side on any of that. You can just, regardless of which side you pick, I think you have valid points. But when you see this murder spree that he goes on in the show, it has a very different feel to it than playing it as the game. Because in the game, what has been your main way of interacting with the world? Shooting stuff. basically the entire experience. It's just core to the video game experience, right? So when you're going through the hospital to get to Ellie, how else are you going to do it, right? You're going to shoot these people, or you're going to stab them in the neck, or whatever you have to do, right? But in the show, which, you know, we've seen, of course, the Pedro kill other people, but this is a murder spree of who are largely innocent people, right? And it has a very different feel to me, and it feels much grosser to me, and I don't like it. So I'll just be clear, I don't like that. I thought that at first, I also thought that the end of the show, that final episode, felt rushed. It and I don't know why that is. Like, I just feel like we could have used more time to soak in that kind of like
Murder.
Isn't it nice? Well, no, not the murder spree, but
No,
the
I know,
moment,
I'm
but
just
the
kidding.
time before, the time before, right? Where, hey, we get this kind of like a little bit of like, hey, a little some joking. We get the giraffe. I also think it's funny all the people saying that the giraffe CG was bad when it was a real giraffe. That's really funny.
Well, I think the
Um,
surrounding elements were all CG, which is why it
yes,
looked wonky.
but either way, I think it's like, but the giraffe is real, which is why it's funny. But it ultimately doesn't matter. The reality is we got to spend like 10 minutes in this like safe, quote unquote, state where they get to enjoy life together a little bit more. And I think the show had the opportunity to expand on that more than the game did. And by the way, the game, we get to spend much more time together in that way, because you're kind of going through this video game world together, and you get this kind of more naturalistic dialogue. In this case, it's like you get like 3 scenes, and then it's like, boom, she's dead. She's on the slab, and Joe's killing everybody. And then next thing you know, we're recreating literally the scenes from the game 1-to-1 in the parking garage, and then in the car, and then in the field, and then it's the final shot, and then it's over, right? And for whatever reason, that final line of dialogue did not land as hard for me as it did in the game, and I don't know why. I really don't know. I've been trying to figure that out.
Weird.
I don't believe that it was a performance problem, but that final scene, just there was something off about the vibe in it for me, and I don't know why that is. So I'm still exploring these feelings, but yeah,
Well,
I mean, again, going back to the Nintendo
I
thing,
guess it did make you feel something, though. Really.
yeah, it made me feel weird. I don't is that how it's supposed to make me feel? How are we feeling about season 2? What's your kind of thoughts on where we're going from here?
Yeah. Well, I know it's coming, and the creator said that Last of Us Part 2 will indeed take place over multiple seasons of the Last of Us
Yes.
show. So that's pretty cool. And Bella, I think, is the exact age as
Yes. She's
Ellie in the
19.
second game.
Yeah.
So here she's trying to play the younger version of her. So that's kind of cool. Even she kind of looks baby
She for
face like
sure.
a bit. So,
100%. Yeah.
but I think with that hairstyle and just like the tattoos and whatnot, and some time, maybe she's probably gonna work out. Who knows? I mean, she's going up against
Got to go against Abby,
Abby. So
Yeah. Um did you see people petitioning for Gina Carano to play Abby?
no,
Yeah, that was funny. I think it was mostly a joke, but it's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that like you didn't feel like the show was even necessary because the game is so perfect, Where I felt like coming out of, I distinctly remember saying this coming out of part 2, talking about the game, and saying I didn't feel like the game was necessary and that it would have been better as a show.
yeah.
So it's kind of a weird place to be in. I don't,
Yeah,
because of the way that,
I'm fine with both. Like, honestly, I'm happy
yeah,
that this exists. I think this is the best way you could have went about this to, you know what I mean?
sure,
Like, we're critiquing like, oh, we, rushed or more time. It's like, well, you know,
could have
they
been way
chose
worse.
they chose a specific
Yeah,
amount of episodes. They chose a specific budget. I think this is a pretty big win. I think this is like the viewership is insane too.
yeah, it's
Like
huge. Everyone
8
knows about it.
million per episode. Like this is
Yeah.
a monster. And I don't know. I got good vibe. Like every episode, I loved the theme song. It's like one of
Oh,
those buttons you
100%.
don't
Oh,
skip
yeah.
type thing.
Sensiala. Oh my
I
God.
love the Ashley Johnson episode where she indeed plays Ellie's
Her
mother.
mom. Yeah,
Cold
super
moment
cool.
too.
Yeah.
And then we go to the credits with the kind of
Oh, yep.
iconography of the spread of it, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
beginnings of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, and then I think the ending just makes certain people like it's not going to change your mind. Like I think I think what we see here is a clear indication that Joel is it's he's evil, but
Justified somehow.
it's
Right.
because of his story, where he came from, his daughter losing that, coming across Ellie, what Ellie needs, what they're kind of trying to be distant towards one another and not let build, but it does build, and he went back for her, she went back for him, and then what's going to happen to her, and she's down with it, but it's just a cool narrative of this guy's journey of where he was and where he is now, and
Right.
just seeing him blast through everybody to get to that girl. Like, for me, like, I wanted to save Ellie. I was like, I built this relationship with her. That is where the feels came. Like, it
Right.
happened.
Yeah, yeah.
This makes sense.
You were vibing with Joel on that.
Yeah,
You
and
felt
then The Last of Us
yeah.
Part Two is response to all that, right? Like,
Agreed. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's there's a lot of slippery slopes
I
that
think
happen.
the coolest part about The Last of Us Part 2 is this direct answer to that decision in the game, right? That bold ending choice is so cool that the only way you can continue the story is to interrogate that concept in
Yeah.
the most thorough way. And it's impressive in how it does it.
Well,
And yeah,
it's completely connected to that moment.
yeah,
There's someone else involved, it's someone else's family member and someone else's feelings. And it's just really fascinating in the game to explore both perspectives there, which is uh, that was the thing that turned a lot of people off, right? Because there's a lot of negative um, thoughts around Last of Us Part Two when it came out, which
yeah.
was
I don't
very odd for,
yeah.
like, like I was telling you earlier. Like, it's probably one of the, if not the, most well crafted
It's the best game ever
made
made.
game ever made. Right?
Yeah, it's the
And it's just, and
yeah.
then it just, like, it got hounded over the cloud kind of
Uh-huh.
over your emotions
Well,
aspect of it. It's not fun to play. I don't want to.
yeah.
I can't wait to jump. It's like, it's a dark narrative that is exquisitely made,
I
that you can
what it's
experience. That's all it is.
do you feel like we're going to experience that same blowback in the show? I don't think so. I
No,
honestly
not at
think
all. I
that the
think
show
so.
is going to be able, the audience is going to be much more mature about it. I really do.
Yeah. I was listening to Game Scoop and IGN's
Yep.
famous
Yep.
game podcast, and Damon Hatfield was saying that this show has retroactively made him think about The Last of Us Part Two and changed his opinions on how he thought about that game, and he's like, wants to play it now more, and is like thinking that it was better than he thought it was,
Right. Interesting.
which is fascinating.
I'm seeing clips of. So my girlfriend right now, she watches the first season, right, and she's like, I want to play the game. And I was like, well, I don't have the first game. I don't know where I would even find my PS3 copy of The Last of Us. I think my sister has it. You know, we could buy, I guess, the remastered version, et cetera, et cetera. But you already saw the story, so she just wanted to jump right into another experience. So she's playing The Last of Us 2, I think right now, actually. Um, and so I'm seeing bits and pieces of it, and I am reminded about how good the mechanics are and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool, and the storytelling and all that. But again, I just don't really have this drive to replay that game. But I don't. I also kind of am glad that I don't have to. That I can just wait till season 2 comes out to kind of experience the story again. And I'm like totally okay with that. I don't know. It's a weird place to be with this series. I also heard on another podcast that someone bring up this concept of like, okay, it's wildly successful, one of the biggest shows in the world, best, the first true success from a video game adaptation
Yeah,
standpoint.
all the accolades,
Right.
and super hot actor right now with Pedro. Like,
Right. Exactly. It literally it's a win on almost all accounts. But
Bella coming up.
does it give you this weird sense of pride being like, we were there first. The gamers know,
100%.
right? Yeah.
Dude, yeah, in
Yeah.
what was it, 2013 or something like that? Was the game? Or
Yeah. It feels
2012?
like a million years ago. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on the PS3, like, we chose PS3 over 360, like, you know what I mean?
Justified.
It's all
Justified, motherfuckers.
exclusives.
Yeah. Have you seen
We
that
had
Halo show?
Uncharted.
It sucks. Yeah.
We had Uncharted, which was great, and then the Naughty Dog does this, like,
Yeah.
it's like, damn, like, like,
Well,
this is
what's
nuts.
funny about this is like, imagine if they had taken this tact to do an Uncharted adaptation, right?
Mhm.
Instead, we got what we got, and that movie's not great. It's fine. It's
Well,
kind of fun.
yeah, I mean,
But
similar way it pays respect to, like, or homages a lot of things and does one for one things,
but
but
it's
it
it's
takes a lot
so
of liberty.
winky. Yeah, I just like this idea of winking at it without respecting the source material is kind of what really bugs me. And I think I would probably come out of that movie if they had just done, let's say, Uncharted 1, but the movie, and they kind of recreated it as close as they could. I probably would have come out being like, yeah, that was really cool, but, it's just like I kind of did this already, right? But ultimately, it's not for me, right? We already got to enjoy this stuff in the first way that it was created, and we got to enjoy it and love it, and we've been doing that for 10 years already. So, this is, I'm kind of working through my feelings in real time, but to be honest, the show isn't really for us. It's for a new audience, to expose a larger audience to a story that we already knew was really good.
Yeah, but also, like we said, that we never really wanted to go back and play that first one because it was so intense and just
Yeah,
it made its mark. It's cool that you can just use the show to revisit it, and you don't really have to be. There's
love
not much
that.
effort involved.
I love it.
You know what I mean? Because it's hard for me to like. Okay, I can't start up this game. It's gonna take me 20 hours to beat. Like,
Yeah,
I'd
no
rather
way.
just watch someone on Twitch like
Let
play
me
it for a bit.
smoke a bowl and just turn on the TV and watch this show. Like I don't need that. I don't need the stress of having to do 30 combat encounters,
Yeah.
every
And
hour.
then The Last of Us is just so cute with how it references things like that,
Yeah.
like game mechanics or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, like, when we talk about winking at the audience, I guess that's where you see it, but it feels much more it feels less
Feels appropriate.
condescending. It
Yeah.
feels less condescending is what it feels like. It's like, "Hey game player, we see you," instead of like, "Hey game player, don't we didn't forget about you." That's a very, for whatever reason, that subtle distinction is a big
Yeah.
one for me. So
Well, yeah, it's subtle. It's
yeah.
not over the
Yeah.
head.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited about season 2. I'm interested to see who they cast as Abby.
Is Naughty Dog making Last of Us Part 3 is
I
what I
think
want.
they have to. I think the answer that they gave officially was there's more story to tell,
Yeah.
right? So,
But they can choose what they wanna do, like, Sony's allowing them, but, like, with so much Last of Us content, like, there's even a multiplayer game coming out apparently called Faction,
yes, they're working on
which
that.
sounds
Yeah.
like that could be my jam for sure.
Well, there's that, like, I don't know if you saw, there's like this other game that's very similar to The Last of Us, but it's like a large scale multiplayer game that looked amazing, but now the most recent version has kind of like been scaled down graphics wise.
Mm.
I imagine it's going to be very similar to that in this kind of like semi open world where you have to craft stuff and collect things and work as a team, and there's other
Yeah, that just
squads
seems
out
cool, and
there.
then go against
Yeah,
other yeah.
exactly. But I think they have to. Like, I honestly believe that they're working on, like, they are working on a story. I think it's very early.
Either way,
Is
they
my
could do
opinion. Yeah.
anything. Like,
But
probably the best video game developer, like, we have an Uncharted
yeah,
movie, a Last of
yes.
Us series, it's yeah, they know what they're
There's a
doing.
well, and then I mean, they did specifically say that they're not going to fall into the same trap that Game of Thrones did by running out of source material.
Mhm.
But it's easy to say before season 1 comes out, but now that season 1 comes out and it's a massive hit, and you're years away from being able to release a season or your third game with maybe 2-3 years
Yeah.
maybe of runway, you're running out of
Great yeah, Game
you
of
know
Thrones situation again, so funny.
you're it's just I mean, HBO, give them credit, right? I mean, there is something about that thing when you hear it, you just like, you're gonna get good shit, and
Yeah.
they just knew again with Last of Us it was gonna fit there,
And then
right?
this has forever changed the course of whatever the possibilities of Naughty Dog's The Last of Us Part 3 will end up being.
You think if this
I'm
had
just
never
saying with
been a thing,
well, it's like the butterfly effect. If
yeah,
Druckmann never did like, he has new insights, new perspectives, new creatives he's working in tandem with, who are making
right,
decisions that are
Mason,
potentially going over his head,
yeah,
and Mason, and showing him things that he didn't recognize about his own characters or themes.
oh
And then
yeah,
he has
Mason
to
brought,
write the 3rd game on his own or with maybe with somebody else, but not with Mason, or maybe he does do it with Mason. Like, how crazy
yeah,
would that be?
that would be crazy. I mean,
Like, 'cause they're obviously gonna have conversations that, because 'cause they're
yeah,
both fans of the characters in the games and now the show, they're gonna just fanboy out over it and, like, come up with cool possibilities.
I think, first of all, the Chernobyl, Mason's last show,
Mhm.
is truly incredible, and
Yeah,
like,
it's just so atmospheric,
I
and this show as well
hated
is able to,
I
convey that.
I hated watching it, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Chernobyl, I like had to force myself to get through it.
Yeah, the sense of
And
dread is unlike any other thing I think you've
it's
seen, 'cause
I
you know the truth, and you see
Yeah,
these characters,
exactly.
their faces that just unknown, like, but they're in the middle of
Right.
it.
You're just standing there and you're like, "Oh, you're
Yeah,
going to die because you're
yeah.
just standing there." And it's like, phew.
It's just
So,
horrendous.
yeah, I don't think The Last of Us is better than Chernobyl. That's my opinion on that. I just like that show is too
And
good,
then that's
but
totally fair
yeah.
because it's just those 2 mediums, you know what I mean, like, clashing, and then this is what you get out of it.
It's
But again, what if it was a
it's not a
show first?
critique.
What if
Yeah.
yeah, but, like, what if the narrative was made through a show first?
Well,
It'd be
that's
totally
funny
different.
because that's how it used to be, right?
Yeah,
We used to get a movie and then a show that or a game that was like based on the movie, and you'd play through sequences that you saw in the movie and stuff, and like that was actually pretty cool. Sometimes not so much,
yeah.
right? But
'Cause
we
so it's
think of
like
Lord of
there's
the
check
Rings,
boxes, right? There's check boxes that you have to kind of
sure, but
hit.
now it's weird. We don't get those experiences anymore.
Mhm.
So now it goes the other way. I don't, if it started as a show and then was a game and it was that quality of game, I think the game wouldn't have gotten as much accolades because it would have been an adaptation of a show, right?
Right.
And it
But
would
the
have been like
show
this
could have been
one-to-one adaptation.
Chernobyl level in terms of just its sense of dread, and, like, the pacing of it would be
I was thinking if
different.
I had never seen the game or heard of the game, and then The
Yeah.
Last of Us comes out, and yeah, yes and no. I do feel like Chernobyl is capable of being more disturbing because it is based on real things and because
Yeah,
you're dealing with
there's
an
just more going on,
abstraction.
right? Like,
Yeah,
society is still there. There's just so many players, and,
yeah.
like,
There's a
this
nuclear
game.
site. Who knows how
Yeah.
far from you at any time? It's like
Last of Us
that.
is
Those
after that,
exactly.
and it's, like, just, minor characters
Also, now that you think about it, how many nuclear power plants do you think went into meltdown during the outbreak?
yeah.
you know? Oh man. So that's wild to think about. Anyway, I'm glad we got to talk about it. I think we'll have plenty of opportunities to talk about it more as we hear more about season 2, which is I think going into production pretty quickly. Um, I think they want to capitalize. I think if you get season 2 out pretty quick, I think that's really good. And then I think you could space out the third season
Mhm.
and give yourself a little bit more time to get that third game out a little bit. That's I think, and kind of now that you have them locked in, and I don't know how you do season 2 necessarily. Like, is
And
one
if you
is
do season 2, you'd have to get season 2 and 3 out because that would probably be the entirety of Last of Us Part 2,
yes,
and
I
then
agree.
the game would come out, and then you'd wait and then do the show, but
It's
or you
tough.
somehow do the
Yeah.
show first, season 3 of the show as Last of Us Part 3 before the game is released.
Ooh, I don't. That no,
What we
don't
were just
even.
talking about, all these
Yeah,
different
that's
vice
so
versa.
wild. It's so wild. I just like I can't imagine. I don't think that they could. I don't think they would let that happen. I honestly think that he would be like, no fucking way. Like but I mean, who knows? HBO carries a big stick. Um, Anywho, I think that was a good chat. We are gonna come back and have another podcast like this. I think relatively soon. So please stay tuned for that. But for now, I'm gonna go watch The Mandalorian. Really excited to kind of just smoke that bowl, as I mentioned before,
Mhm.
and and kind of unwind. It's been a long day, but it was nice to get back in the saddle here and the kind of the regular show, get back in that cadence. I missed it, so glad you could join me, Jeremy. We'll be
Yeah.
back soon with more. For those at home, please follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Tower Babblecast. Watch us live on Twitch, twitch.com/Tower Babblecast. It's Tower Babblecast everywhere now. I could just start saying that, right? And yeah. Well, and Patreon, of course. Help support the show. We'd love to see you in the Discord. And we'll be back very soon with more TOB. We'll talk to you then.